Welcome. My name is Kendra Morgan, and I'm the host of the Rise and Build podcast, where we hope to empower you to rise up and build a strong family, knowing you have to strengthen your hands to do the good work. Come with us as we rise and build. Hi guys, welcome to the Rise and Build podcast. We are still in this series of play. Today's topic is practical play. We are going to talk about play during the school day, play after school, homework versus school. What does daytime play look like? And I'm sitting across from Melissa Morrow. She is one of Building All Children's child development specialist. And I'm super excited that she's here because this is right up your alley, Melissa. I feel like you are kind of our resource queen that we turn to. And I'm excited to kind of talk through some of this today. First, I want them to know about you more. So share about you. Tell us about you.
Okay, I'm Melissa Morrow. I'm a child development specialist here at Building All Children, and I was a regular education teacher and a special ed teacher, and now I'm a mom and work here. So have my hands in a lot of little scopes.
You have 3 children, and their ages?
I have a 3rd grader, a 1st grader, and a toddler.
Yes, so you are deep in the play world. And I would say you're one of the fun moms that we always kind of talk about because you play really well with your children. But let's dive into practical play. And what does that look like? So just play throughout the day. Tell us a little bit about research, how much children should be playing. What does that look like throughout the day?
First of all, kids need to have these experiences of playing, and sometimes they need you to facilitate. So that might look like in the morning you set up a sensory tub for them. So that would be something with sand or water or even mud if you're feeling daring, and just something to invite them to play with. You're kind of like the flight attendant. So if you are excited about something or being really fun about something, your kids will follow suit.
Okay, so I think we just had some hair stand up on some of our listeners because they're thinking mud, sensory play, it's going to make me hyperventilate. What does that even look like? Why is sensory play so important?
Our kids need to have these feelings in their hands, in their feet, all over their body. So the sensory system is getting a little bit dysregulated. If you think about a tag on the back of your shirt, us adults can really hopefully just move past that, but kids have a hard time with that and they don't know how to regulate their system. So sensory play will help with that. It helps with their emotions, and it really helps with that communication that we need them to have with each other or with a parent and a child.
So it's kind of a multi-sensory way of learning. And so that research shows that the more they use their hands and the more messy and yucky it gets, the more it kind of regulates their overall emotions and their being. So it really, in the long run, will make them have a better day.
Right. Might make your house a little bit messy, but maybe put a tarp down or take them outside.
So what if I'm sitting there going, I am not doing mud. She does not know my children. What are some other, newspaper, you could tear up newspaper. What are some other simple, not as messy things to do?
Even just getting out your magnet tiles, that's always fun. Something that they can build that's like an open play item. So you can add magnet tiles or let them play in your sink or a bathtub. So if they're taking a bath, add in your kitchen items with them. Give them the colander and sponges and let them wash the toys or other kitchen items and just let them explore freely.
Okay, I love it. So earlier, Andy talked about the stages of play. So I don't want to repeat that because she did a beautiful job explaining that. And then we had Kristen Hale on here. She's a play therapist. And so she was talking about kind of the children that might need extra help or extra encouragement to play. Today, I feel like we are just talking about a child that plays pretty well. We're going to give some different ideas. What ages do you think is the most important for play?
Let's think about our school age kiddos and a little bit before that school age. Our babies are naturally exploring and our toddlers are naturally exploring by opening every cabinet and taking stuff out. They're kind of finding their own sensory ways. But for our bigger kids, they're really going to be drawn towards our TVs and screens. So we need to shut those off and just let them be immersed. So take them outside and they need about 1 hour of free play a day minimum. And then you can have about a half hour of guided play. So you guys are playing together, together, but think of like 4 different stages of physical play. That'd be like your recess. Get out there, move your body big, play soccer, shoot hoops, something like that. Social play, that'd be your pretend play, playing kitchen or playing with Barbies. And then the indoor solitary play your kids also need, that would be like playing Legos or Magnetiles, something that they can do that's kind of in their own immersive world. And then parent play, that could be you guys cooking together or drawing together.
Okay, I love those. So can we kind of break those down a little bit more? Because I think those are the 4 things that if they get anything out of this, it's okay, I'm going to focus on trying to get 2 of the 4 in today. So first, I love that you're talking about school age, because I think when we think of play, we think of, well, we know infancy is important, but we think it's like 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. But we know that they still play when they're older. We just don't continue to play with them when they're older. And so I love that we're talking about that age. So during the day, they're at school all day long. I love that you mentioned the sensory tub or something to get going in the morning. They're at school all day long. Hopefully they have recess. So let's talk a little bit about recess in school. We know that some schools don't have as long as others, but most schools have recess as long as the weather will allow it. How important is recess for children?
It's just as important as reading, math, and writing. It's an academic skill, but they're using their bodies and they have to have it.
Does recess allow their academic performance to be better?
110%. It really helps with their creativity and imagination. If they're able to be kids, they're letting those parts of their brains kind of relax and really then be able to go back into the classroom and focus on the quote unquote academic skills.
Okay, so now I'm going to throw, because you said you were an educator, you were a teacher, right? We know you're in the regular classroom and the special ed. What about, and the only reason I bring this up is here at Building All Children, we hear this a lot. What about those children that are a little bit of a behavior issue? They've been disobedient, did something wrong during the school day, and they get punished and lose their recess. And I know this is a hard question, but what do you, 1, think about that? How does that affect the child? And then 2, could you maybe, as an educator, give some other suggestions?
So recess should not be taken away. Our kids need to move their bodies.
Okay.
I suggest that if they're getting trouble at recess, I know someone in my house that may have trouble playing the game jackpot, where you throw a ball up and then you have to catch it.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem. So for one of the recesses, he's not allowed to play that. Okay. We're just removing that object for him to go to that causes a problem. So then he has to choose something else. So maybe find a limited activity that child can do, and or in the classroom, instead of them being punished for their bad behavior, really try to find those good behaviors. Instead of 3 strikes, you're out, start with 3 strikes, you're in. Every time I catch you being good, you're earning back a little more of a experience or time outside together.
Okay, I love that you said that, because we do have a lot of boys that are kind of impulsive. And so you get them out on the playground, there's not a lot of boundaries. They can run and jump and do whatever they want, which kind of increases that impulsiveness. And then I feel like a lot of them, when they're playing either sports, so basketball or football or whatever your game was, I don't know.
Jackpot.
Or if they are playing tag. I feel like tag is another one where they always tend to get in trouble. But I love the idea of just taking that one game away that got them in trouble versus the entire recess. It's good.
And while they're outside at recess, they're getting social skills that they need so desperately. They're having eye contact with each other. They're forced to communicate of something they do want to play or they do not want to play. They're focusing on a task. We need them to play a task, finish the task. And they're also getting their self-esteem and, again, that regulation that we talked about earlier of getting their sensory system and their brains and bodies ready to learn.
I love it. So then they go back into school, have their school day. They're ready to learn because they've been active on, the playground, the recess time. They come home. What is the first thing you recommend for families?
Snack. Always give them a snack.
Okay. I love it. Did they pick their snack? Do you choose their snack? How do you do snack?
I have an old lunchbox in our car, and it's filled with snacks that I know they will eat. I try to give them a little bit of protein, like a beef stick, and then something crunchy. Their bodies are craving that same sensation of playing outside, and their mouths need something crunchy as well.
I love it. Okay, so they have a snack, then what?
Meet them low and slow. So when I grab my kids from the school playground area, I give them our own little special thing. So my daughter and I have a high five, and our son and I have another high five. It's just a nice connection point to come back together. And then when they get in the car, we start talking, but I do not ask them anything about school. It might be a way of like, hey, Wyatt, I thought of you today. Here's this really cool fact about a snake. Or Collins, did you know that unicorns, blah, blah, blah. It just really gives them an idea that you thought of them that day, and then I don't talk anymore.
And you just listen?
I listen. They'll kind of take in my thought, and then they'll slowly start talking.
Okay, and so why do you not hit them with a bunch of questions?
Well, while you're at work, or if you've gone somewhere big and exciting all day and you come home and your spouse or your kids are like, Mom, tell me your favorite thing about your day. Tell me about your day. It's like, well, I can't really choose. It was fine. It's kind of hard it's too broad of a question.
That is a lot to process. Let's talk about those working moms or working families that maybe they ride the bus home, or maybe even ride the bus to like a childcare center and they stay a couple more hours and then the family picks them up. I mean, that's a long day and they've gone from place to place. So I love the fact of not just hitting them with a bunch of questions, but they're tired. And so what do you recommend these families kind of regulate their children to even get into the car?
To get them to the car or into your house from the bus stop, I suggest making it a fun game. Again, you're the flight attendant, so if you're like, let's hop like bunnies or run like cheetahs as fast as we can, or maybe you take chalk with you and you make a line from the bus stop to your house if it's not that far and they have to walk on a zigzag line or hop, but some way to get their bodies moving to the car, and you guys together is a really great connection point as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. What else? As far as, I know you had mentioned homework. We kind of wanted to talk about homework. So we got them home from school. You've given them a snack. You've given them activities. How do you do homework?
After they've had their snack and activity, so about 30 minutes or so of them doing their kind of own choice. And again, that's that indoor guided play that we talked about, of maybe they're playing Legos or playing Magna-Tiles or playing with Barbies, something that's solitary that they can kind of just be in their own world without being peppered with questions or being told what to do. So once that's over, it's time for homework. I like to have our kids sit at the counter to do their homework so they're not doing it by themselves and they can ask questions if they need it. And while they're doing their homework, we might have soft music on or just complete silence in the house so that they can focus. It's important that we have an opportunity and a space for them to feel comfortable and get their job done.
That's great. We have a lot of children that we test their executive functioning. And a lot of times your executive functioning is the way that you organize information to be able to function. And so a lot of children we are seeing are having a really difficult time starting their homework or just taking the initial, just let's get it started. Like you can encourage them to get it out of their backpack, but actually starting the homework. What do you have to recommend for that?
Always have the same routine after school. So as soon as you get home, you take out your backpack, put your lunchbox away, take out your homework, set it on the counter. That would be that first task initiation, and then welcome them to the counter again with maybe another snack while they're doing their homework, and that their homework should be done before the next day or before it is due. Sometimes I'll take my kids and say, all right, right now you're only doing half the sheet. Do you want to do the even numbers or the odd numbers? You're just breaking that task up for them. That's in a tangible bite.
I love it. So homework's done. You're fixing dinner. What's next?
Then while I'm fixing dinner, they're playing, or they might enjoy their screen time during that time so that I can be focused in actually making a meal. And then we might do TVs off, and then we play games together. It's a connection point. If it's nice outside, we'll go outside, play basketball, ride our bikes, or even just draw with chalk.
Well, you talked to us about games. We always think of board games, but I personally love board games. We played board games a lot with our kids as they were growing up. I think it's a great way for them to learn to win and to lose, and you have to be good at both of those. It also is a really good way of teaching them that life is about sharing and taking turns. So share with us some simple board games or some simple games that you could play after school.
We play a lot of card games, like with a regular deck of cards. They're getting a lot of math without knowing that they're getting that. So playing slapjack, you don't need a lot of space. Playing war, you don't need a lot of space. Playing speed. And our kids also like a game called Sleeping Queens. It's very confusing when you first start playing it. Like, warning, very confusing. But the kids love it. It's imaginative. And again, there's also a little bit of math in there.
Yeah, I love it because you can even play kind of a Uno or just matching numbers. I mean, I in my last podcast, we recommended just carrying a deck of cards because I feel like there's so much that you can do with cards. You can even just match the black and the red. I mean, you can really back it up or you can make it pretty difficult. So I love that you mentioned cards. What about loose part play? Talk to us about loose parts. I know here at Building All Children at our play groups, we often use loose part play. I think that it builds a lot of skills, but I don't know if families really understand what that is or how you do it.
Okay, it's really just a creative use of building materials without you telling them exactly what they have to make. So it could just be a bunch of pom-poms, cardboard, glue sticks, scissors, any little craft material you have that they can build with. You can also use rocks or popsicle sticks. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but something that they can just create without having a quote-unquote blueprint.
Yeah, I love it. We encourage families to have a bag like in their pantry or in their kitchen. And anytime there's a loose part, whether it's a screw or a bolt or a popsicle stick, anything you mentioned, leftover material or a poster board or leftover paper, like you throw it in that bag and then you have a loose part party and you just get it out and they can put together whatever they want and kind of create it and be creative with it.
So fun. And so many Amazon boxes that you could be cutting down and they could create with all of that cardboard.
Yes, I love it. It's just using what you have and making it work. And I think the older kids love the loose part play because it just allows them to think kind of out of the box. And they don't get to do that a lot during the school day. So it's just another way of them kind of thinking outside the box. What other type of play do you like to do, Melissa?
We're really big outdoor players. So it's important that we're outside either just enjoying the fresh air, like going for a walk or riding bikes, or even playing an actual like sport together, like basketball or soccer or lacrosse.
And then as far as toys, we're talking about like how some families will put toys like in a bin and we'll pull out certain bins for them to play with. How do you recommend keeping the toys?
I like that every bin has its own toy set so that they know where they go. They need to be organized. It's helpful for our kids to know where items go. And once their brains are organized, it really helps further along their development as well. And the biggest thing for me is with toys, let them play. Just give them time to do that. I know we kind of rush, but at some of the nights, just let them stay home and play. They can play with blocks or animal figures or even just play kitchen.
Yeah, I love that. We talked about that earlier too, about how there's so many times that we interrupt their play. And it's okay to let them get focused on something. And I feel like we're constantly moving so fast that we're part of the reason they don't have any focus because we're constantly kind of moving and changing things pretty quick. What I know we live in a really busy life in a busy world. What are some ways that we could slow it down?
I think the way we schedule in going to the doctor, going to do all of our appointments, we need to schedule in that free time play. If you just make a plan with your family that on Tuesday nights, it's No Tech Tuesday. And that means that you're playing board games or playing make-believe upstairs. That's what you do. You just have to be intentional and maybe write it down. Tell your kids so they keep you accountable as well.
Okay, I actually love that. And last time you mentioned the calendar that you draw on. Do you actually draw in playtime on that calendar?
Yeah, I'll usually draw a heart so they know that's kind of a family time together. Since we don't have everyone reading yet, it's just a simpler way for all of us to know what's going on.
Okay, so I'd like to take it a little bit deeper. What if we have this siblings that keep fighting, not sharing toys, and honestly, play is just a disaster in your home? What are some things that you recommend for that?
I think really jumping in and spending time one-on-one with your kids is really going to fill up their little love bucket. So that might look like you have a TV show on for one kid and you're playing with another kid, just the two of you. I would use a sand timer so that they can see how much time you are playing and how much time is left. And then talk about when our timer is done, we're going to switch spots and you get to watch a show while I play with your sibling.
I love it. So it's really just about connecting with them and doing some one-on-one, bringing them back together. What about for our dads? How important is play with dads?
Super important, especially for our boys. We need all of our family to be playing. If you think of them like a wolf pack, the dad wolf is always kind of like pinning the little wolves down to let them know like they're in charge. Our children, our boys, our daughters all need to see that the dad is the leader of the family, and that means wrestling with that rough house play or that risky play that takes the mom's breath away and letting them just be them. My husband is very good at pretend play.
Yeah.
He will play Legos for hours. I cannot stand to play Legos. I always play it wrong. But he jumps into the world and he can do it. We each have our role. I'm not going to go play Legos, but I'm happy to bake and color and do crafts.
I love it. And for our listeners that maybe are single moms raising, they obviously can manage both roles because I just think it's so important for the kids to wrestle and to play that. I have moms all the time say, Kendra, I'm not going to wrestle with them. But sometimes you need to, and it sounds silly. I don't really know how to wrestle with my son either. I mean, now he's big, but when he was little, but he thrived off of that. So what we would do, because there were times that my husband would travel, is we would just I literally like a huge pillow and he would run full speed into the pillow and we would play like football, but I wasn't tackling him or wrestling, but I was letting him kind of crash and get that deep pressure. So I do think the balance of them getting it's just so important to have that deep crash play, the risky play that you mentioned earlier, but then also setting and interacting with pretend play also. Funny you mentioned your husband. Mine was so good at pretend play that it would blow me away how far out he would go in their pretend play. So I think if you are blessed and you have that partnership back and forth, it's great. Use it. I just think dads sometimes think mom's role is to play, but we need dads playing too, and the kids thrive off of that. What else, Melissa?
For sure. I would like to get back to homework.
Oh, okay.
I think it's very important that our kids are, of course, doing their homework, but also work that they are not finishing at school. It needs to be done at home. Our kids need to see that we are a partnership, a team with the teachers and the school. So if your child is not finishing their work or didn't get it completed or completed well enough, they need to redo it and take it back to school with a joyful and happy heart.
Okay, so I actually love that you brought that up. We just had a family in last week. First grader just was not completing homework, and I wasn't completing the schoolwork during the day. So then he had to bring it home and do it at night. And I asked the family if they had ever told him, like, what are your expectations? Do you expect him to finish the work at school? And they're like, well, we never told him that. And I was like, well, I mean, he's smart enough to do it. We just have to tell him, like, we expect you to be obedient and do what your teacher asks you to do. And it was kind of like this aha moment. You could see them going, oh, well, we're going to tell him that, I mean, first biggest kid, first time in first grade, trying to figure all this out. So explain that a little bit more, because you have some high expectations, which I personally love. But what are your expectations with homework and doing the school work during the day?
Our expectations are you do the work and you do it the best that you can. And it might mean that you need help from mom and dad to complete it. And that's okay, because we're all learning together, especially with this new math. It's very confusing to our adult brains what in the world they are doing. So it's kind of like we're learning it together, but we're also showing our kids that we have the grit to solve those problems and we have the tenacity to get it done.
I also love that you mentioned the partnership between you and the teacher. You're a team and you're all working together to build some really strong academic skills. Do you talk about that with your children?
We always talk positive about our teachers. I know lots of people have different experiences, but we don't want our children to hear us talking negatively about anyone, and especially their teacher, knowing that they are an authority figure.
I love it. I love it. Anything else that you want to address with practical play?
Just making sure that we're giving our kids time to be creative and be imaginative and jumping in their world when they're playing unicorns or playing dragons, jump in there and play with them too.
Yeah, and research shows it takes 5 minutes of connection time of them directing the play. So I love that you said diving into their play, not changing up the way they're doing things, but just diving into their play and interacting. It doesn't take hours upon hours. It literally takes 5 to 10 minutes, but it's of uninterrupted time, not looking at your phone, not answering an email, not answering that text. So I think in the world we live in, that is kind of hard, but I love the uninterrupted play. Okay, Melissa, Building All Children is about the Bible. We are about the truth and always turning our families back to practical truth that they can live through the Word and out of the Bible. Do you have a verse that you would like to share?
I do. It's Philippians 4:4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice.
Amen. I love it. Play is about fun and being joyful throughout the day. And you can do that through just practical play. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. We're grateful for you.
Thank you.
Let us close with a word of prayer. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for these children in our lives. Thank you for all the resources you have placed in our life to help us rise up and build. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for listening to the Rise and Build podcast, brought to you by Building All Children, a child development program in Tulsa, Oklahoma. To learn more about Building All Children or the Rise and Build podcast, please visit buildingallchildren.org. This podcast is crowdfunded. We appreciate our sponsors and the donations given by our listeners. Come with us as we rise and build.